As we gather together, we acknowledge that the land upon which our church and homes exist is the ancestral land stolen from the people of the Shoshone-Bannock, the Shoshone-Paiute, Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai, and Nez Perce nations, along with many other tribes whose names have been lost in history. We acknowledge that our presence here today is founded upon the exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples. With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our ongoing commitment to the work of dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, a community gathered to nurture spiritual growth, real connection, and faithful action for a better world. All who join us in the spirit of curiosity, love, and justice are welcome this morning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, your presence is a blessing. Whether you are here every Sunday, once or twice a year, or here this morning for the first time, we're glad you're here. Our minister, Reverend Sarah Lawal, is representing our congregation and soaking up all manner of good things at the General Assembly of Unitarian Universalist Association in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm Gwyn Reid, and I will be the celebrant for today's service. And I'm so looking forward to today's sermon delivered by Liza Long. Liza is an English professor and the department chair of liberal arts and philosophy at the College of Western Idaho. She is the author of The Price of Silence, A Mom's Perspective on Mental Illness, a 2015 Books for a Better Life award winner. And we have also been fortunate to have Liza in our pulpit on earlier occasions, and she frequently serves as a piano accompanist and musician for our Sunday services. I'm also happy to have Emily Emerson-Paige, our Director of Family Ministries, Sue Langley and Patti Raino with special music offerings, and our AV support team, Philip Stucker and Greg Stanzak. And I see Sam back there too. Welcome to those joining us online. I'd like to invite you all to turn around and wave to the camera. We're so glad you are out there, reminding us that our community extends beyond these walls and we all worship together. And you who are on Zoom already have your devices in worship mode. And since we in the sanctuary don't need to have our devices on, I would like to invite you to turn them onto worship mode as well. We know it takes a lot of courage to cross the threshold and to enter into a new community, either in person or online. So to our newcomers, we're especially glad you've joined us today. We invite you to introduce yourselves after the service, or if you're online in the chat. And please fill out a newcomer card or form so we can keep you connected with all that is happening in our fellowship. I have one announcement to highlight for the whole community. Please join the Inquirers leaders for today's Inquirers session. After the service at approximately 11:30 in the Channing Room, which is down this hall in the south wing, today's session will feature a tour of the sacred sites in our outdoor sanctuary. So after gathering in the Channing Room, the Inquirers and their leaders will proceed to the outdoors. Our fellowship donates 25% of our unpledged plate offering to support a local organization whose mission aligns with our social justice ministries. For the month of June, fittingly for Pride Month, it is the Community Center. Founded in December 1983, the Community Center is devoted to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and allied population. The Community Center is committed to uniting the LGBTQ plus community through educational and developmental programs and providing resources. The TCC provides a safe and welcoming location for group meetings and social activities for youth groups, LGBTQ plus support groups, women's and transgender groups. There are many ways you can make a financial gift: online on our website using the Venko app, or in person using our drop boxes. They're located on either side. However you choose to give, you nurture our community, and we are grateful. Our spiritual theme for the month is delight. A perfect theme for this month of June, Pride Month, celebrating our LGBTQ plus community, commemorating the Stonewall riots that began it all, and continuing the work toward liberation for everybody. Today, we will be exploring the delight, surprises, and creativity available with the technological advancement of artificial intelligence, and also well-considered concerns about this technology and what it means for jobs, creativity, and humanity. Liza will share some thoughts about how humanity can survive and thrive as we face what may turn out to be one of the greatest technological challenges since the Industrial Revolution. As we enter into this time of worship, let's take a moment to center ourselves. Let yourself become fully present in your body and in this space. Set aside your duties and concerns for just this time, and let us take a breath together. Just breathe, knowing that your breath connects you to your spiritual center, to each other, and to the planet. As I read our beloved Second Person Intimate by Reverend Kendall Gibbons, I invite you to close your eyes and picture the last person with whom you had an in-person, face-to-face contact, whether it was a beloved partner or the cashier at Fred Meyer. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp that lights where I tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream. Thank you, Patti and Sue. Each week, we light our flaming chalice, a symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We join in this lighting in solidarity and community with thousands of other Unitarian Universalists lighting chalices today in churches, homes, and in online worship spaces, reminding us that we are connected to one another and to a larger community of faith and love. As we light the chalice here in the sanctuary for our Zoom community, if you have a chalice nearby, you're invited to light it with us this morning, then share in the chat where you're lighting your chalice. Today, we have a first-time chalice lighter with us. We invite a child to light the chalice to recognize the children and youth in our community, our responsibility to them, and the future we're building together. So this morning, I would like to invite our child to come up. Let me introduce you to UU lay minister Rick Child. He's joining us this summer from Mendocino, California. Rick is a volunteer with Planned Parenthood, and so he'll be working this summer on abortion rights in the state of Idaho. As Rick lights the chalice in the sanctuary, I invite those of you in our virtual community to light a chalice if you have one nearby. I've already asked you to do that, but it's here twice, so I read it again. Why don't you stay up here for just a minute? As a first-time chalice lighter for the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, it is my honor to present you with a first-time chalice lighter pin. Thank you, Rick. With our collective chalices lit in all our spaces, we offer you this call to worship by Rosemary Watola Tromer. It's so human, the hand, how it rises to wave to a friend as if it is a direct extension of the heart. Perhaps that is why in these days of emojis and AI, when you write to tell me you wave each time you drive past my house, my hand rises to wave back. Though I don't know where you are or when's the last time you passed by my house. But here, friend, wherever you are, here's my hand. Palm open, arm high, not electromagnetic, but no less full of song and light. This wave reaching across the night. With my palms open and my arms held high, I invite you. Come, let us worship together. As we move into our time for all ages, I'd like to invite the children in the room and the young at heart to come join us up front. Jem has a very special story for you.
So our service today, we are trying to grapple with this age of the internet and especially of artificial intelligence that we are living in, that you, young children, are being raised in, steeped in. This is your future. These advancements are things that you are going to be living your life with. And as Liza and Philip and I figured out in our pre-service conversation, this conversation around AI is vast and has so many pieces and is complicated. And our story this morning, I present you, humbly tries to take a look at it from our UU lens. We live in a time, ignore my hands shaking. We live in a time when ideas and images hold a lot of power. We have access to thousands and thousands of ideas every day. New tools and projects and pictures and possibilities, so much so that it can be downright overwhelming. And sometimes we don't even know we're being overwhelmed by all the options until we feel crummy in our bodies and stuck in a brain fog. Our minds are cool and powerful, but they aren't invincible. They're more like beautiful sponges that might get moldy if we don't rinse them and rest them. This makes it all the more important to remember we live our lives in a material world. We are emotional, social beings moving around in meat suits. Whole and holy meat suits, but it's all the same. Caring for our bodies and for one another is a sacred task, which is where our story begins, with a beloved community. They told each other stories and shared their joys and sorrows and sang songs together. They knew that caring for themselves and one another was a sacred task. Spending time together like that is how they knew when something difficult or unfair was happening for one another. They knew that some people in their community were not able to have enough to eat, that it was hard to find time and space to rest, that every day some were afraid of being hurt. They knew that some of them were having a hard time imagining a future that felt different from this hard reality. And this was a deep sorrow for the community. These problems felt like a ball of yarn that was impossible to untangle. One day, a couple of families met up in a park. Between somersaults and frisbee golf and snack time, they talked about this big tangle of problems. The kids were staunch that they wanted change. They are passionate people, children. And even that, they knew change wouldn't make problems go away immediately. The adults agreed that some things take time. They knew that in one family's garage, there was a composter that they were diligently attending to. And the other family was tired of using their water to take care of an old, boring lawn. They put a call out to their community with an idea. A community garden where all were welcome and all support was appreciated. They humbly asked, "What tools and skills and time do you have to share?" And I ask you now, in building this community garden, in brainstorming and offering all the skills and tools needed to create a garden, how did this community respond? How did they go about starting to build a community garden? So they got some shovels. Ooh, can I have one of you come draw a shovel for me? Okay. All right. Did you dug up the lawn, use some shovels? They need seeds. Will you come draw some seeds? Maybe a seed packet or whatever your idea is. Yeah. Okay, what else did they need? Yeah, Ruby. They need good dirt. Do you want to, how would we draw dirt? What do you think? Do you want to come draw some dirt? I've got a beautiful brown color here. Yeah. We need fertilizer. I'm gonna imagine that we've sprinkled it into the dirt already. Let's go for it. That's acceptable. It's a natural part of life. We gotta include it. Yeah, Carissa. We need water. Will you come draw some water? All right. What else do we need to make this community garden? Worms. Do I have pink? Aiden, will you draw a worm? Okay. Got some seeds. Sunshine. People. Okay, can I have whoever's working? We're going to imagine. Maybe it might not get on the board. Sunshine. We need people. Yeah. Bees. Wonderful. What else did this community?
Come on, just come on.
Yeah, there's no yellow. You might need to use orange. Yeah, orange is perfect. Okay, so this garden is growing. It's got plants, it's got sprouts, it's got water. But is it, okay, I'm going to phrase it as a question differently. What else might this community space need to be safe, to be accessible for everyone? What are some things that we can add to this garden to make it feel safe? I think I heard an answer, maybe. Like a good, yeah, lots of space to spend time in. Yeah, Katie, ladybugs.
So it's like a clownfish now.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna listen to the crowd for a second. Paths, nice wide paths, holding hands. We wanna make sure that as safe as this is, it is also freely accessible. This is for the community. Raised beds. If there's a fence, then there's a big gate, maybe. What would make this garden beautiful? How do we beautify our garden?
Lots of flowers.
Yeah. So we want to make sure it's got good food stuff and, as Elle says, lots of flowers. How else do we beautify? Trees. Gosh, trees are beautiful. Maybe some sculpture. Maybe some. George Reino specifically sculptures. Our vase over here, for those who don't know, our vase is created by George Reino. All right. So as the days went by, the people planned and plotted and created and contributed and made this wonderful, safe, beautiful, bountiful garden. I'm going to let you guys finish up these drawings and then head back to the seat at your leisure. I'll finish this up. So they made a garden with harvest freely given to those most in need, and they practiced problem solving together, and they continued to sing songs and tell stories and share their hearts. Making sure we all live in safety and connection with food and water and shelter is a big task. And we have so many tools available to us, all the more when we come together and share what we have. That is a gorgeous ladybug, Aiden. But our tools are our helpers. They cannot do the important work for us. How we use our tools and resources is one of the biggest questions we face. Our values, our effort, our capacity for deep sharing cannot be replaced, no matter how intricate and cool a tool we make. In our religious exploration class today, which is going to be for anyone who is interested, this is children ages 5 and older, youth especially, I encourage you, it's going to be fun. Today we are going to dive into the magnificence of human imagination with a character creator workshop using shape theory. Some of you might know what that is. I encourage you after our service during hospitality to check out what our children designed today. We are going to sing our community blessing to one another, and then we are going to head to our religious exploration class.
May your mind
Each week, we take time to acknowledge the many joys among us and to grieve our many sorrows and losses so that we might, as a community garden, lift that burden for each other and receive the blessing of this community. And a reminder that you can submit your joys and sorrows online each week. There's a link in our worship email and on our website. And our virtual community continues to share joys and sorrows in the chat. We combine these collective joys and sorrows every month and share them in a community-wide email. It is through our sharing with one another that we forge deep bonds of community and connection. As we begin, Jessie Chastain has asked us to keep her daughter-in-law, Sharon, in our thoughts and prayers. Sharon was recently diagnosed with lymphoma and has a rough road ahead of her. Also, Kathy Carmen has asked that we keep her neighbor, Francie Link, in our collective thoughts and hearts as she heals from cataract surgery. She would greatly appreciate this community's healing prayers. And as Jem mentioned, the chancel flowers and the vase this morning are offered by Patti and George Raino. We continue to offer our condolences to Patti, George, and to Jenna. Patti's brother, Kenny Marshall, died on June 2nd. If you are holding someone in your heart this morning, I invite you to speak their name aloud into this community of love that we may hold them with you. May the arms of this community hold all your joys and sorrows, those named and those that remain silent, close to our hearts. May we feel the grace that surrounds us and be transformed by the spirit of life and love, with warmth to celebrate our joys and with gentleness to soothe our aching hearts. Our reading this morning is from The Seven Kingdoms of Caesar by W.H. Auden. Great is Caesar. He has conquered 7 kingdoms. The third was the kingdom of infinite number. Last night it was rule of thumb. Tonight it is to a T. Instead of quite a lot, there is exactly so many. Instead of only a few, there is just these. Instead of saying, you must wait until I have counted,
we say, here you are. You will find this answer correct. Instead of a nodding acquaintance with a few integers, the transcendentals are our personal friends. Great is Caesar. God must be with him.
Great is Caesar. He has conquered 7 kingdoms. The second was the kingdom of natural cause. Last night it was 6s and 7s. Tonight it is 1 and 2. Instead of saying, strange are the whims of the strong, we say, harsh is the law, but it is certain.
Instead of building temples, we build laboratories. Instead of offering sacrifices, we perform experiments. Instead of reciting prayers, we note pointer readings. Our lives are no longer erratic, but efficient. Great is Caesar. God must be with him.
Great is Caesar. He has conquered 7 kingdoms. The first was the kingdom of abstract idea. Last night it was Tom, Dick, and Harry. Tonight it is S's and P's. Instead of inflections and accents,
there are prepositions and word order. Instead of or Aboriginal objects excluding each other, there are specimens reiterating a type. Instead of wood nymphs and river demons, there is one unconditioned ground of being. Greatest Caesar, God must be with him.
Breathe with us. Fill your body with breath. Breathe into this sacred space. Breathe with this beloved community filled with loving kindness. Breathe with wholeheartedness. Listen to what is calling you in the silence.
Thank you so much, Patti and Sue, for choosing some of my favorite music today. I think music, for me personally, is a powerful reminder of why I love being a meat suit, human in a meat suit. I'm here to talk to you today about how to survive the textpocalypse and why being human matters more than ever in the age of artificial intelligence. Imagine a world where every story, every song, every piece of writing is algorithmically generated. It would be a world devoid of the human touch, the spark of imagination, and the richness of diversity. While AI and large language models can generate text that is technically proficient, they lack the capacity to truly understand the intricacies of human emotions. They lack the life experiences that shape our perspectives and fuel our creativity. They lack the ability to empathize, to relate, and to genuinely connect on a profound level. I didn't write that. AI did. Welcome to our brave new world. And spoiler alert, as with prior technological advances that we have seen in our lifetimes, profits, not ethics, or even a basic concern for humanity, are dominating discussions and development of generative artificial intelligence. What does the rise of artificial intelligence mean for jobs, for creativity, for humanity? How will we survive what may turn out to be one of the greatest technological changes since the Industrial Revolution? And I'm not kidding. So before we get into the ones and zeros, I want to share a new kind of acknowledgement with you. I acknowledge that ChatGPT does not respect the individual rights of authors and artists and ignores concerns over copyright and intellectual property in its training. Additionally, I acknowledge that the system was trained in part through the exploitation of precarious workers in the global South. In this work, I specifically used ChatGPT to write the opening lines of this essay and to research examples of prompts that I will share later. I also used Adobe Firefly to generate 2 images based on my own text prompts. Cute little robots. I'm assuming here that you've heard about ChatGPT and other large language models. The students in my college English classrooms certainly have. To understand the potential impacts, both positive and negative, I'd like to share the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization's policy statement on AI. Quote, "The world is set to change at a pace not seen since the development of the printing press 6 centuries ago. AI technology brings major benefits in many areas, but without ethical guardrails, it risks reproducing real-world biases and discrimination, fueling divisions, and threatening fundamental human rights and freedoms. AI business models are highly concentrated in just a few countries and a handful of firms, usually developed in male-dominated teams without the cultural diversity that characterizes our world. Contrast this with the fact that half of the world's population still can't count on a stable internet connection." End quote. So, to understand how we get here, I'd like to take a quick tour of writing as a technology. That's my specialty. I'm an English professor. Language, as you may know, the ability to communicate both concrete and abstract thought to other humans, is not new. Most anthropologists think that it's been a defining characteristic of humanity, at least since we became Homo sapiens, maybe earlier. But writing is a relatively new technology, appearing on the cultural scene less than 5,500 years ago in Mesopotamia. For thousands of years, writing remained the provenance of the elites, the scholarly literate upper classes. The invention of the printing press in Germany around 1440 Common Era was a game changer, creating the possibility for mass publication, and with this, mass literacy. One of my first jobs in college was cataloging the marginalia, things people wrote in the margins, from some of the first printed books, pocket-sized editions of Roman and Greek texts that were printed by Aldus Manutius in the late 1400s. It's still the coolest job I've ever had. By the 1900s, educators around the world were embracing the goal of universal literacy. Public schools promoted literacy as an unqualified good, a rising tide that would lift all boats. We hear that a lot. Free libraries brought texts to everyone who wanted to read them. And in the 1990s, the advent of the World Wide Web meant that suddenly any person could communicate by text with any other person literally anywhere in real time. In 1995, only 3% of Americans had ever signed on to the web. By 2000, that number had climbed to 52%, and by 2015, 96% of adults ages 18 to 29 were using the internet. Not that all the words posted to the World Wide Web were or are worth reading. But, bear with me here, it turns out they were good for something else. A treasure trove of readily available text to train large language models, also referred to as LLMs. A few interesting things happen to our brains along our path from oral language to ubiquitous text-based internet. Writing removes the need for robust memory. We no longer need to memorize all 26 books of Homer's Iliad, or even a single line. And we no longer need to remember anything, really, when the advanced computers we all carry in our pockets can look up any knowledge, no matter how esoteric, in an instant. The British author E.M. Forster is often credited with this famous quote, "How do I know what I think until I see what I say?" If we outsource our writing to large language models, will we still be able to think for ourselves? And will we still want to? Maybe you remember life before the internet. I do. We wrote letters. We sent them by mail. My siblings and I fought over who would get to use the telephone after school. We needed a thick book called the Thomas Guide to navigate the streets of Los Angeles. I'm really glad we have MapQuest and Auto Maps now. Ed hates them, my husband, but I love them. So things changed fast with the early internet. I still remember the thrill of my first Mosaic web search in 1994. Not knowing what else to ask, I queried the surfing conditions in Australia. And I was delighted by the instant response. Didn't know if it was true or not, but I had it. It's right there. In the early days of the internet, anything seemed possible. My friends and I wrote long and earnest email missives to each other. I booked a hotel online and looked at train schedules in Barcelona. We explored new identities in anonymous chat rooms, and we could order any book we wanted from this magical new website, Amazon.com. Then the towers fell, and America went to war, and everything fell to pieces. A few years later, a new technology appeared, one that promised to connect us with people around the world. I shared tunes on MySpace and posted photos, so many photos, of my adorable children to Facebook, never once considering their privacy or my own. I started an anonymous mommy blog, The Anarchist Soccer Mom, that's anarchist, not antichrist. And Andy Warhol's predicted 15 minutes of fame for everyone, everywhere, became a reality. It is our reality. We all know how that ended, though. Facebook destroyed democracy. Wah, wah. Today, our young people show devastatingly high levels of anxiety and depression, and we are polarized and siloed in our social media echo chambers. Now, with little warning, large language models have been unleashed on the world with all the optimism that accompanied the last technological revolutions. And of course, none of the ethical considerations. I typed my first prompt into ChatGPT in late November 2022. Wanting to assess its potential impact on my school's philosophy program, I asked it to summarize Immanuel Kant's deontology, apply it to the ethics of eating meat, and contrast that with utilitarianism. It got utilitarianism right, but it was wrong on Kant. 3 weeks later, I tried the same prompt again. This time it got Kant right, too. It's learning. Since then, I've used ChatGPT daily. As an instructor, I teach students prompts to generate ideas, focus research questions, clarify difficult concepts like deconstruction, outline papers, and check for grammar. I've personally used it to design yoga routines, plan meals, create lesson plans, write drafts of emails and recommendation letters, and even compose a collaborative rhyming poem. It's not a great poet yet, though. It's a simultaneously strange and delightful experience chatting with this bot. When it lies, which is often, and with great confidence, It always apologizes when you call it. How many humans can do that? It's great. I don't think this tool is intelligent. If you're familiar with predictive text on your smartphone, ChatGPT is basically that on steroids. Emily Bender, a computational linguist at the University of Washington, has called large language models stochastic parrots. I love that line. They function by analyzing probabilities and predicting what you want them to say in response to your prompt. And honestly, there are worse things to ask for in a conversation partner, right? It just wants to give you what you want to hear. And yet, every time I use ChatGPT, so every day, or any other generative AI program, I'm mindful of the problems I mentioned that are intrinsic to a training set based on the internet. Gender and racial bias, for starters. This tool acts as a mirror to 30 years of internet text toxicity. No one has meaningfully addressed how this technology will impact knowledge workers who previously thought their jobs were safe. Spoiler alert, LLMs are really good at writing code. So if you were telling your kids to go into computer science, think about that for a minute. Time magazine reported that tech companies exploited Kenyan workers to make ChatGPT's responses less toxic. And they can occasionally be toxic. So, then there's climate change. This is a bummer, y'all. The energy required to run these large language models is predicted to reach 8 to 21% of the world's total energy supply by 2030. In a climate that is already warming too fast. This massive energy consumption will disproportionately impact the global south and those who do not have the financial means to protect themselves from climate harms. And of course, let's not forget the generational existential threat to humanity. I mean, how forward-thinking of the tech bros who unleashed this on us to sign a letter calling for regulation and warning about a potential risk of extinction. Dude. But, you know, if we're being honest, AI is just one of many existential threats facing humanity, so take a number, right? Matthew Kirschenbaum, a professor of English and digital studies at the University of Maryland, predicts a far more mundane future, the Textpocalypse. He writes, what if, in the end, we are done in not by intercontinental ballistic missiles or climate change, not by microscopic pathogens or a mountain-sized meteor, but by a tsunami of text. Think of it as an ongoing planetary spam event, but unlike spam, there may prove to be no reliable way of flagging and filtering the next generation of machine-made text. Don't believe everything you read may become don't believe anything you read when it's online. And I thought about that quote when whatever happened with Russia, and we still don't know, blew up on Twitter the other day. I was like, I don't know. Is this what our lives will become? Computers doing all the writing and the reading? Even as I'll admit, to experimenting with training ChatGPT to provide formative feedback on student essays, hey, it would save time. I think about the 1985 Val Kilmer movie, Real Genius, where a tape recorder lectures to tape recorders. Not everyone is as gloomy as Kirschenbaum about the future of AI, though. Adrienne LaFrance sees another possibility for this new technology. She writes, just as the Industrial Revolution sparked transcendentalism in the US and Romanticism in Europe, both movements that challenge conformity and prioritize truth, nature, and individualism, today, we need a cultural and philosophical revolution of our own. Artificial intelligence will unquestionably help us make miraculous, life-saving discoveries. The danger lies in outsourcing our humanity to this technology without discipline. We need a human renaissance in the age of intelligent machines. What might that human renaissance look like? What does it mean to be human in the age of AI? Ultimately, who is the author of my story? AI researcher Kartik Chandra has an answer. She writes, "The question to ask about writing is not, will AI make it worthless, but rather, what could possibly be more important? In a world flooded with the monotonous slurry AI excels at producing, power lies with those who can and do speak for themselves. Never have the skills of independent critical thought and expression been more vital than in the AI era." So where are we? In the end, I'm left, and I'm leaving you with more questions than answers. But I agree with Kartik and with ChatGPT from the beginning of my sermon that artificial intelligence cannot and should not replace us. And I believe that if writing and thinking continues to be humanity's essential work, as it should be, poets must lead the way. So I will leave you with the words of poet Archibald MacLeish from Hypocrite Auteur, and our task and calling is clear. Poets, deserted by the world before, turn round into the actual air, invent the age, invent the metaphor. Thank you. Please join me now in the spirit of prayer and meditation for this prayer adapted from UU Minister Jane Blackall. Spirit of life, in whom we live and move and have our being, as we turn our attention to the depths of this life, the cosmic mystery and wisdom that abides in all that is, we tune in to your presence within us and amongst us. In these strange and often unsettling times, there is a lot of change and confusion in the air, a lot for us to cope with, which we wouldn't have chosen. We face each day, each hour, each mood that arises in us as best we can. We may often find ourselves fearful, lonely, irritable, or just plain weary. There may also be precious moments, at least, of consolation, uplift, and peace. In the quiet of this hour, may each person find what they most need to face the days ahead. And as we look back over the last week, let us also silently give thanks for those joys and pleasures we have known and will know. We offer up our joys and concerns, our hopes and fears, our beauty and brokenness, our humanity, and hope for insight, healing, and renewal. As we look forward now to the coming week, help us to live well each day and be our best selves, using our unique gifts in the service of love, justice, and peace. Amen.
Friends, I invite you to place your hands over your hearts for our closing blessing from Khalil Gibran. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. We extinguish the flame of our chalice, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in this world. Blessed are we all. Go in peace.